So let's say now we're at the point where we want to stylize a game and we want to give it a particular look and feel instead of this just generic Unity default view mode. And while this is nice, like I said, we want our games to be more unique, more about like a different style and trying different art aesthetics, looking at what makes a game unique from a visual standpoint. So there's a couple of things we can do. Now, one of the first things we could do is we can play with our materials. So if we go to our materials, and we can see we've got our different materials here. So let's take our sand, for example. We've got a couple of stuff we can mess with. I'm not going to go too much into these because this is huge, there's a lot you can do. But sometimes just pressing buttons will give you different effects and different ways of looking at things. So for example, if we make the floor metallic, sure, it's made the whole thing a lot darker, but it's also going to be a lot shinier now. For example, if I bring in a light, let's just do a spotlight. How this will reflect the light is going to be different to, say, if I move it up the edge, to how the other one would reflect light. We can see it here in this small demonstration. I mean, the metallic essentially just makes something a bit more metallic. We've also got this option called smoothness, which again, will just give you different sort of feels. You don't really want to mess with your normal height and occlusion because it does require different images that we're not going to be creating now. We've got emission if we wanted to make a particular part of it a bit brighter. So we could sort of set a colour, and that's really going to, that essentially makes the floor glow. That like emits light emission. And those are sort of your main things you could probably mess with there. Let me just put this back to about how it was. Because if you do, whatever you do, you'd need to sort of match it with your other materials, so the whole thing's fluid. Now, the other thing, which we've just sort of seen, is we've got lights. First of all, our main light is what we call a directional light. This casts light on the entire scene. And we could change it. So let's say we wanted to give the whole thing a bit of a blue hue. You can already see how that's sort of taking effect. In fact, now let's make it a bit warmer. Gonna add a bit more warmth to this scene. So we've got that, we've got our intensity as well. And suddenly having a game look like this is very different to what it would have looked like before. Really washing out all the colours. Or we could go really dark and have it a bit more sort of ominous. For fun, let's just go 1.6 and really mix that up. So we've got a bunch of stuff, and like I said, for the most part, you can press buttons and try different things. We've also got a few other different lights. So we've got our point light. If I go back to my scene view, sorry. And we can see this here, and you can see like it's sort of softly reflecting on the floor. Now we could put various different lights around and create different effects using different lights, and that's sort of giving it a warmth, so a warmer feeling and a bit more depth in the scene. So that's another thing you can go ahead and mess about with. Spotlights and point lights and try different things there. But what's probably going to be the biggest thing to mess with is what we call the post-processing volume. So if I get my main camera, if I can find my camera, oh, of course it's my camera manager, and then I need to go into my camera manager and find my main camera. Now we need to add a post-processing volume component to this, but you might have to turn it on first. So what we're going to do is go to Window, Package Manager, wait for this to load up, and just do a quick search for post. In fact, we just put post-processing. Post-P, it should come up. Post-processing. There we go, and click Install. So post-processing is a collection of effects and image filters that applies to your camera. So this is really going to dramatically affect how the camera sees the color and how it interprets it. And this is where we're probably going to, where you can spend a lot of time and really get a very unique, different feeling. So all of this is just different effects that we can apply, different stylizations to make our game look and feel different without actually affecting, without having to remodel everything and redo all our own artwork. So we can get different stuff from our post-processing and our materials and our lighting. Cool, that should now be good. So what we can do on our main camera is add a component and just type in the word post processing, and we want to add a post processing layer. Now on the layer you'll see it says no layer has been set. This will be affected by everything, and if we click everything it says do not use everything, otherwise this can affect your performance. Will it? It probably will. We should heed its warning. So let's just quickly create a new layer. So click on layers at the top, add layers, and let's make a new layer. Post processing layer. Let's go back to our main camera and now set it to nothing and set it to post processing layer. Cool. And no anti-aliasing is fine. We don't need to worry about that. It's a very pointy game. We're not concerned there, and we need to go ahead. In fact, we've already got a camera manager. We could probably just add it to our camera manager because that's sort of like, oh, we've got a level manager. Sorry, let's add it to our level manager. Let's add component and add a post-processing volume. So what a post-processing volume is going to do is we need to first set it to global, and now we can start press new and we can start adding effects. So inside here we've got this entire list of different things, such as depth of field, which is going to add blur to the background but keep a focus line. We've got vignettes to give everything like a softer edge. But let's just make sure it's working first by, I don't know, let's do some color grading. I'm going to go back to my game view so I can see it. Mode, oh, I need to tell it the layer to be in my post-processing layer. Not mode. We could do, let's just turn up the temperature. So you can see how that's immediately giving a different effect. And let's just bump up, in fact let's let's bump up all the reds in the game. Or we can take away all the reds. Make everything feel quite cold. So this is just like affecting our red channels. And let's go ahead and, I don't know, let's add a vignette. Everyone loves a bit of a vignette. That should blur and soft off our edges. Now with a lot of these, you kind of just want to mess about with them and see what it's going to look like. In fact, if we really pump up all the reds, we can start to make this look a bit like a horror game. I think we're going to need to make it a bit more black and white though. Chromatic abbreviation is pretty crazy. What should we do? Let's add a bit of grain as well. Awesome. This is coming along nicely. What else shall we add? Like I said, just keep adding. I mean, you can add all of them really, and just sort of get different effects going on, different styles. So I'm just pulling this number down, try and get the character in focus and really blur the end. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I've clearly gone way too far with this, but we've got a very different feeling game going on. I am totally going to have to tone some of that down. But you get the idea, just, you know, have a mess with it. See what sort of works and what doesn't work. Like, for example, I've gone way too much under grain. Let's soften that grain down a whole bunch. And like I said, just have a bit of a play. Get your game looking interesting. And I'm going to just turn off the depth. You know what? No, I like a bit depth of field. But I'm just going to try and get the numbers a bit soft, so it's only blurry really far in the distance. Cool. There you go.